in year 2, 3, 4, we haven't looked into that yet.
So then taking that same question and asking our treasurer, Mr. Mayor, Janet, would we then, if we did this project, we all said, yes, go ahead, let's do it, let's get this thing in shape, would we then be looking at charging, year 2 obviously is a lesser amount, would we then be looking at putting some into reserve so that futuristic, if we had to do a large stretch again for whatever reason, we would have a reserve amount of dollars to do it? Or are we looking at then not going to the householders in the municipality doing it, or are we looking at going to the householders and then coming back and saying, okay, every year we're going to say each householder of the 800 is going to pay $200. So is that what we look at? Like, I'm just,
yeah, I would say you said wasn't it, right? What's about the then what you're doing? Basically, there's a kind of process for everybody to pay, and then annually you'll own the taxes for the maintenance for this.
and so is that a separate line on their tax?
Yes.
So that they're aware of the differences of what it is? Okay. Thank you.
Mayor Day.
I'm also on the St. Clair Regional Conservation Authority board, and we have quite a number of projects that we have applied directly for, and I think only one has been approved at this point, and we've been informed that there's been significant cutbacks to the wetland funds. So it's highly unlikely, it sounds like, that there's going to be a significant infusion of cash into a project like this to the tune of $350,000 plus, right? So I think we realistically have to dismiss that. As much as we'd like it to be feasible and make application for it, it's probably realistically not feasible at this point. So when we were talking about this earlier during budget discussions, and we talked to Tom Crouch about the findings, one of the things that I believe this council tasked him with was looking into the possibility of actually purchasing dredging equipment and sharing it with other lake jurisdictions who are going to have similar problems like we do because of lower lake levels. And I was anticipating seeing that in this report because these ongoing issues, like Councillor Scott has indicated, the ongoing dredging and the expenses of that could be all factored into the cost of purchase of equipment. And just wondering what work, if any, was done in investigating that option as well.
Okay, a couple things there. Just to comment on the WECI funding, where it's kind of one of those programs that is there through the Ministry of Natural Resources, and up until 2 years ago, they actually provided $5 million a year towards conservation authority projects. And then they cut that to $2.5 million. So they cut it in half basically. So a lot of projects that aren't getting funded now, if they actually go back to what they originally committed to as $5 million a year in a grant, there's a good chance that some of those would actually get funding. There's no guarantee, but we're kind of hopeful as well. Right now, they're still playing catch up with some of the really big projects that we went too many years without any funding to sort of do repairs. And I talk about the London dikes that you probably hear about in the news, some of the larger dams like Fanshawe and sort of the Grand River Conservation Authority dams, that type of thing. There's a lot of work being done right now that is taking a lot of money out of that pot. But those big projects are eventually going to be worked through, and then that will make up a little more room for some of the smaller projects that come in behind and actually get some funding. So, as you're quite right, there's no guarantees, but I wouldn't rule it out yet, because even we'd applied for the WECI funding for this project this year in case we got far enough to start working. And while it's down below the funding cutoff line, it would only take 2 or 3 big projects that somebody else wasn't going to be able to complete this year, and it might suddenly become a viable project. So there's a bit of that side of it as well. The other one regarding the dredging, I guess we probably misunderstood and weren't aware that we were to look at that option. I guess when I was at the council meeting, my impression was that staff was going to look at that as an option, and the authority could sort of provide some input, but I didn't think we were charged with doing that. So.
Maybe, was that an understanding that staff was going to look at that, or conservation authority? Because
stab at that one. Based on where we had got to in some of the earlier studies and talking to the environmental agencies, if you said today we're going to start this, I don't think we could put a shovel in the ground this year. There's probably going to be a period, and every year the landscape changes a bit, but we'd have to go back to the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, Ministry of Natural Resources, Ministry of Environment, and basically get the people involved again that we need to talk to, and then say, okay, how are we going to do this? What approvals are needed? How do we mitigate this, that? And so you're probably looking at, I would say, 6 to 9 months, at least from the time you said, yes, we're going to do this project. Just, I guess if it started to move ahead, we would probably start to try to engage those agencies early, because there wouldn't be a lot of cost to engage them, just to let them know the project is up and moving, and what do we need to be concerned about if we're going to take this to construction. But there definitely would be a lane.
Councilor Scott, is there? Councilor Ross?
Further than the hydro project, is that what it is? Flowing in the rivers of water, right?
Probably hydraulic.
Water flowing. Okay, we just did an emergency dredging in the fall because of the river mouth being, or it got flowing out. So further to Councilor Underwood's question, the planning of it, you can say 7 to 9 months and how we know how things work, right? But we also know, because we do dredging all the time, that it's very difficult to have dredging done because of all the permits required, and they don't really flow in the intake flows to flow every month, correct? And we, correct?
Mainly, I guess a lot of the dredging that takes place is the Conservation Authority and Ministry of Natural Resources involvement. And as you get closer to the lake, because everybody knows that the mouth of the river is a shifting area, it's sandbars, it changes storm to storm, then the disturbance of that area is considered to be less significant environmentally than as you move up the river, you then have species that are there because of the conditions. Right at the river mouth, it changes so much that there are species there, but they're used to changing, so disturbance is probably less.
Well, where I was leaning in the question really has to do with the fact that when we did the